So hello, today is story time, and I am going to tell you a story about a boat misadventure that I had. I think it was around 2020. It was in the spring of 2020. Now, I had bought this boat in April, I believe, of 2018. And the universe was not totally on my side about what I was doing. I had it in mind that the practice of law was taking its toll on my body because I was spending entirely too much time sitting at a desk like I'm doing right now. And my arms were getting weak, my back was curving, and I just, a whole lot of things, waking up nights thinking about cases. It just seemed like I needed to do something else with my life. And the thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to go sail. I wanted to live on a boat, write books, and sail down to the Virgin Islands. That was my plan. And the universe kept throwing monkey wrenches into my plans. Starting with the drive down to the boat, where my car started to overheat. And it turned out that one of the fans on in the engine wasn't working to cool the radiator properly. So I had gotten down to Florida, the boat was in Panama City, and in October that year, 2018, a Category 5 hurricane hit Panama City and did some damage to the boat. So it took me close to 2 years, actually, until the boat was where the insurance company would once again insure the boat. When it was damaged, it was totaled because it was an old boat. It was already over 40 years old at the time. A port window had gotten smashed out as the boat was being pushed back and forth by the storm. It had hit itself on a concrete, I guess a pylon. And in the fullness of time, I had so many things done for the boat to make it safer, including taking down the mast. The mast, right around the base of the mast, the fiberglass was kind of not very firm. And so that had to get done, and numerous other things. And by the time the boat was insured again, I just couldn't wait to take it out. And I didn't bother looking at the weather. I was just so eager. The boat was insured again. I just got insured the day before. And here it is. I am now in Carabel, which is where the boat was when it was fixed. And I want to go out with the boat. It's now insured again. So I get on my boat, I go out, and I get into the bay. I want to say Apalachicola Bay. And it just really got windy, and the waves, I mean, the boat was rocking and rolling, and I did not feel safe putting out the sails because it was so rough out there. And so I turned the boat around to bring it back in. And I was halfway back across the bay when the engine conked out. And I just have not really become a great mechanic. I never aspired to become one, but I tell you, if you have a boat and you're going to go solo sailing and it has a diesel engine, you had best know something about diesel engines. I had wanted to take a diesel engine course, but the course was too far away from where I was, so I never did get around to that. So there I am, I'm out in the bay, the engine conks out. I call my Florida son, Joe, the former owner of this boat, and he is just a godsend. So he says, well, do this and then do that and do the other thing, and nothing that I did worked. And I was starting to get seasick because when you have your head, that close to a diesel engine, and you're down below and the boat is doing this sort of thing, so he said, well, put down your anchor and call US Boat, or Boat US. This is the AAA of the boating industry. out in United States waters. And so I did that. I put down the anchor and called, and they came in about 40 minutes. And as they approached, they called me and they said, pick up your anchor, and we're gonna throw you this line. We want you to go up front and tie it to the front cleat. And so they came alongside me. They threw me the line. I walked up front, got down, tied it up, and as I stood back up, this wave came from the side, and the boat just went. I mean, it just went enough so that it just tossed me right over the safety line of the boat. And so then I ended up in the water. And now the guys had to rescue not just my boat, but me as well. And the water was so rough, and I was not wearing a safety vest. And I had my phone in my back pocket. I had all of my credit cards, my Social Security card, all of my important cards, Blue Cross Blue Shield. I mean, everything. I had everything in my pocket. And there I was in the water, and it's really easy to lose track of somebody's head in the water when it's that rough out. And as I went down, in fact, I went down, and the boat went over the top of me. I was looking at the bottom of my boat and thinking, is this the way I'm going to be dying this time? But I didn't. I popped up on the other side. And so they let go of my boat in order to rescue me, and my boat went flying away just by the wind alone. I didn't have any sails up, but the wind just took it and carried it off. And it took the guys 15 minutes to get me out of the water. It was that difficult a job, but they managed to do it. And in the meantime, my Florida son was on his way from Panama City, and he met us at the dock when they brought my boat back in, and he determined that there was a problem with the diesel delivery system, that somehow the little pipette or whatever is in the diesel tank had gotten clogged. It was something. I mean, the boat had not been run. It had not been out in the water for over almost 2 years by that time. So the diesel had just been sitting in the tank, getting gunky, and that happens. Condensation happens inside the tank. Water happens inside the tank. Things start to grow inside the tank in the dark. And so Joe decided what I needed was a different kind, a new little pipette to go into the tank to suction out the diesel. So that's what he did. He put in a new line for me, and he said, well, next time you go out, let me go out with you. And so the following weekend, Joe came up, and we went out again, and it was beautiful out. It was just beautiful. We had a really, really nice sail. And then as we were starting to come back in again, the weather changed, and it got as nasty and awful as it had been the previous weekend. And as we were coming back with the motor running, I had already put the sails down. The motor conked out at almost the exact same place it had conked out the weekend before. Right? So Joe's fix was not working. And I ended up having to call Boat US to tow us again. And so we got towed back, and then Joe ended up taking the diesel tank out of the boat, and that is an enormously horrible, difficult job. There's absolutely no way I could ever have done that on my own. The tank is sort of surrounded by the engine in back of it, and doesn't lend itself to an easy remove. There's nothing that opens up that you can just pull it up and out. So you have to go through the sides. So these little openings on the side, alongside the engine. So he took out the tank. We had to get all of the diesel fuel out of it, and then he did a thorough job cleaning it and putting it back in again. And that was the end of that problem. But to have it happen twice, and boat US was so good about rescuing me both times. And one of the fellows on the boat US boat was Captain David Barrow. I think the last name was Barrow. He was actually a distant cousin of Clyde Barrows. And I subsequently ended up hiring him to accompany me down to the Virgin Islands, but he managed to get seasick almost the entire time between Carabel and Marathon. We had stopped in St. Petersburg for a couple of days for rest, but then he got sick again from St. Petersburg to Marathon, and that's where we parted company. So that is my ridiculous story about my boating adventures, getting tossed off my own boat. And of course I wasn't wearing, a vest, which you're supposed to do, right? And you're supposed to tie yourself in and all of this good stuff, none of which I had done. But I never got tossed off the boat again, no matter how rough the seas got. So I'm more mindful as time wore on. So that is my story, and today is the 4th of July. Tomorrow I intend to be out with Melanie Stansbury and other New Mexicans, letting the people in Washington know that we're not going to just lay down and play dead. No, we're not. There's a whole lot more of us than there are of you, and love always wins. It always wins. So go do your thing. Show us how ugly and mean you can be, but we will prevail and we will win. We will win, but we have a bumpy ride ahead of us. So wishing you a good 4th and a pleasant 5th. All right, ciao everybody.